Hey there, Susan here. I hope you're having an amazing day wherever you are in the world, whatever you're up to. In this episode, I get to sit down with the founder, product inventor, and CEO of Lovesac, and they're on a mission to create the most loved brand in America. We are going to talk about what it's like to navigate uncertainty with the economy. We're going to talk about entrepreneurial grit. We are going to talk about a purposeful, faith-driven regime that really assists with helping ground this founder and what it's like to deal with entrepreneurial anxiety and whatever it is you're going through. If you are thinking about starting a business, if you are in the throes of a business, you're fundraising, this is the episode for you. I have gone through the most amazing leadership program for the past several months, and I've made a decision to continue for another year. And as a result, I've literally taken myself apart and put myself back together as a founder, as a mother, as a woman out there doing big things in the world. And even with this show is going to go through, and it is going through a complete upgrade. The conversations are going to be deeper. They are going to be more in service to you, the listener, wherever you are at. And they are going to be much more raw and real. And so I am grateful you're here. And before we get into the show, if you have a woman in your life that you love, or you are that woman, and you woke up this morning and you were uncertain, and you hadn't slept, and you were frustrated, and you felt alone, then I would encourage you to download my newest creation, my newest venture, The Pause. Our app is available in the App Store and the Play Store. Who is it for? It's for women 30 plus who are dealing with the confusion and chaos that surrounds our health, that surrounds perimenopause and menopause. And I designed this app to be your companion. We have an AI coach. Her name is Harmony. She named herself, which is pretty darn cool. And she is evidence based. She's there to provide you with guidance and support. We have incredible symptom tracking that allows you to identify your symptoms and also get feedback. And we continue to build. Did you know that less than 2.5% of tech companies in 2023 had at least one female founder? So we have myself as the founder and Dr. Mia Chorney as our co-founder and chief medical advisor. So we are a company for women, by women, and we would love your support. So go check us out in the App Store and the Play Store. Download today, give us a 5-star review. And definitely the best way to support women is supporting women-founded businesses. So with that, I'm going to get into today's episode with the amazing Shawn D. Nelson. He is the founder and CEO of Lovesac. He is also the best-selling author of Let Me Save You 25 Years, which is also his podcast, which has included incredible guests, including Mark Cuban, Gronkowski. You all know I'm Patriots fans. We will talk about the Patriots just for a brief second, I promise. And most importantly, he's an incredible father of four. So let's jump into this episode of Raw and Real Entrepreneurship. This is Raw and Real Entrepreneurship, the show that brings the no-nonsense truth of what is required to start, grow, and scale your business. I am your host, Susan Slack. Well, Shawn, it is so great to have you on Raw and Real Entrepreneurship. And first and foremost, celebrating everything you're doing in the world, your show, and your incredible success. I want to dive in deep right off the bat. You and I were discussing before the show, we're living in a really interesting time. We have Gen Z coming out of college. If they're going to college, the job opportunities aren't great. We're seeing declines in terms of jobs for kids who are, 21, 22. You started Lovesac when you were 18 years old. What, in your opinion, do you think is different about the climate now? And do you think you could have started this business in this existing climate?
Oh, I mean, it's a different world. Um, what's funny upon reflection, uh, we were bootstrapping. We were selling these giant sacks full of foam because I had made one, people liked it, as our side hustle in college before I think bootstrapping was a word.
Yeah.
All these clever buzzwords, all these business podcasts, all these tools for entrepreneurship, startup ecosystem, you know, paid coaching, all that. It wasn't even a thought. It didn't exist. There were business classes at school. I was in them taking accounting and all this other stuff. And in fact, you know, operating a business there, first of all, I would encourage any young person to find a way to operate a business through college. Anything, even the dumbest, smallest, I don't know, vending machine, car wash, who knows, Windows business. Operating a business through college was so instructional for me. I felt like I was the only kid in class that understood these words that we're learning in economics, the law of diminishing returns and pricing power and relative price, whatever. Like all of these terms we learn words for. Everyone else was like memorizing them, and I felt like I was living them, and I didn't know that until I knew it, and it was extremely valuable for me. So in a lot of ways, I think it's more accessible than ever. You have so much resource. It's free. Your podcast, my podcast, Let Me Save You 25 Years. I'm sitting down with Mark Cuban. I'm sitting down with, Gronkowski. I'm sitting down with some of the most successful people in the world just talking about what it took to become a success. That wasn't available. That wasn't available to me. And so we were just stumbling our way forward. So in a lot of ways, it's easier than ever. In a lot of ways, it's harder. It's way more crowded. The minute you have an idea, there's 10 others. And you know what? A weird tangent. Even way back in 1998, when I founded Lovesac, believe it or not, there were two other foam bag companies born that year. That's just the way the universe works. You make an asteroid movie and there's three asteroid movies, it's really weird. And and so you have to kind of have that. And I didn't know that right at the time. Like the internet was barely getting going. I became aware of this much later. And of course, Lovesac, I think, won that race, but some of those companies are still out there. My point being, this day and age, the day you have an idea, there's probably 10 others. So you have to accept that and charge into it, but you also have more resource than ever.
Mm. You said something really fascinating. Well, I mean, so many things. And sidebar, I danced with Gronk at a charity fundraiser, and I'm a longtime New England Patriots fan, always, all day,
Awesome.
every day. So that's I will shout out my Patriots every show I get. The thinking about 1988, right? I was 16 years old. I was coding, and I was already on, I think, my third business venture. There's a question that comes up, and I get a lot of people writing in, they listen to the show in the car with their kids. Do you think entrepreneurs are born, or do you think they can be made?
I think entrepreneurs are born. I think they also can be made, but I think I talk about this a lot because it's not talked about enough. After all the conversations, all the, testimonials about grit and persistence and all these things, they're all true, but the underlying invisible strength that I think an entrepreneur must have is the ability to thrive in uncertainty. And that's a weird thing because it's hard to even put your finger on what does that mean, uncertainty. By definition, it's an ambiguous term. But I think humans would rather know they have cancer than suspect it and live for those few weeks while you're waiting for the tests. Like it's and that kind of uncertainty. That's a stark example, right? But these uncertain pressures that we can't even know where they're coming from, competitors that we don't know exist, economic turmoil that we feel might come, but the end of a cycle that seems to never come. These are the things that destroy people, that just make it impossible for people to like function or thrive anyway. And and so it's not really about entrepreneurship, but I think that, if it were, if you were Columbus, leaving the coast of Spain, sailing off into uncertainty, right? That's the capacity I'm talking about, right? So in a different day, it might be manifest differently, but in our day and age, entrepreneurs have to carry that in this form. And it's it's the kind of thing that people don't think about. And everyone, look, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, just like every kid wants to play in the NFL. It sounds cool. You can get rich. It's celebrated in our culture. It's like the modern gladiators of our time or something.
Mm.
But no, not everyone is born with that capacity. I think you might be able to develop it, but and so there's lots of other things, by the way, that come along with being a successful entrepreneur. But that is a common denominator that I've found amongst pretty much all successful people, and it's not often spoken of.
It's that the capacity to execute. And and to your point, I just went through this, Shawn. I had a scary scan, let's call it. Like once every few years, I'll go for a full body MRI
Mm,
and they're going to find everything. And
mm,
so it came back and the doctor calls me and I'm driving to LA and I get this call and I'm volunteering at this personal empowerment event that I'm really passionate about this work and he calls me, is like, Susan, there's something in your left breast. I want you to get like a 3D mammogram right away. And I had I was going in, Shawn, that night to serve 150 people going through like some in-depth processes. And
mm.
I'm like, okay, pull off. Got myself an acai bowl. That was my pity party. I'm like, okay, get back in the car, keep driving, let's go. And the capacity as an entrepreneur to be able to say, like, okay, life is lifing. However, I have payroll to make, I have customers to serve, I have a big vision in the world, and that can just be up on the shelf until I can deal with it.
Yeah,
Made the appointment. But to your point, it was 4 weeks before I got the scan, and
yeah,
then another week to get the results back. And I'm like, I just the not knowing, but it wasn't going to take me out of the game. And this is the
that's right.
question in reading your story, because it's been, you know, in so many media pieces and it's come up time and time again. What I'm curious about is your ability to execute, because how many people of all ages have ideas every single day about businesses to start, but very few actually execute. So you're watching The Price is Right back in the OG Bob Barker days, like I'm all in, I'm
Yeah.
vested, I'm enrolled in that story.
Okay.
And but you actually executed. That's different.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say what you just expressed is exactly what I'm referring to. And I think that people like you underestimate your ability to do that because it's natural for you to be able to compartmentalize, put that on the shelf and just keep working through. To you, that's like, I don't know, it's just what you do. And
Mhm.
that's my point. A lot of people think they want to be an entrepreneur, but they don't have that capacity that seems so natural to you that, it's still hard. You're aware of it, but like, it's just what you do. I'm the same way. And,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying that to tout. I'm saying that if you don't have that, you might not want to go chasing this because you're going to be faced with something like that daily, weekly, monthly, annually, all the time. And it does crush some people. In terms of your question, my ability to execute, it comes back to the number one Shawnism in the book, the first podcast I ever recorded. I follow these little Shawnisms through my podcast and have more since. Just do something. Just do something. I think Lovesac gets to employ a few thousand people. We have 300 locations across the US. We're on a path to building the most loved brand in America. Sounds like a crazy thing. You watch, we will do it. We're building a Nike, we're building an Apple, we're building a brand that's here for 100 years. And it's from an unlikely place. We started with giant beanbags, now couches. We'll go a lot further. We'll get to that later. We'll do all that because was watching The Price is Right, had this dumb idea, like, what if there was a beanbag like from me to the TV, like the whole floor? And instead of thinking about that for and talking about it to my friends, I just turned off the TV. I got in my 1969 Ford Mustang. I drove down to Joann's Fabrics. I bought 7 yards of tan vinyl and black vinyl because it was on sale. I brought it home. I rolled it out. I looked at a baseball. I cut out two figure eights. I started sewing them together. I jammed my mom's sewing machine. It killed the motor. My neighbor helped me finish it, put a zipper in it, looked for crap to put inside, couldn't buy enough beanbag beads, went to Michael's, right? Is unfathomable. Looked for soft stuff, found my parents' camping mattresses rolled up with a bungee cord, cut those up on a paper cutter, like the kind you chop paper into strips with, turn them this way, squares, filled the thing. It took me 3 weeks to stuff it. All kinds of weird stuff, old blankets, packing peanuts. But the
And yellow
foam,
pages, I understand.
yeah, I was using the yellow pages eventually to source foam from. And when I say that speaking, I have to like caveat because half the audience doesn't even know what I'm talking about
No.
before Google existed. And I just kept doing the next thing, which is Shaunism number two. Just do the next thing. And before you know it, you understand workers' comp insurance. You understand, registering with the state and national. You understand trademarks. You understand, contract law. You understand how to read a lease. You just keep doing the next thing. And I know that sounds really dumb and basic, but it's the doing
Mhm.
and the ability to do now. I reflected on it 5 minutes ago. I received, it's so dumb. I received a new license plate and it could have sat there. It's like, I'm hustling to go install that thing before this podcast because it's like, I just have a do it now, do it right now attitude. Because otherwise, these things sit on the shelf
Yeah.
and they cause us problems later on, you know, um, or they go nowhere. And so just having this proclivity to do it now.
What is the craziest idea that you've had that, in your mind, you're like, I know this is insane, and I'm going to execute on it anyway because I don't care about public ridicule. I'm going to step out on the edge. I just did a ropes course. So the vision is, stepping on that ledge. You're like, I don't know, 50 feet in the air and you're diving
Yeah.
for a trapeze bar. Like you're just going to dive off. What's the craziest idea?
Oh man, you're talking to a person that grew up as a teenager trying to one up himself and his friends every night of his life, doing a lot of crazy stuff that I really shouldn't even talk about. Not, we were not nothing, mostly pretty harmless, but we just tried to do just crazy, stupid stuff every night of our life. And in fact, and I'm not talking partying. I never drank. I never partied. It's not that. It's stuff with cars and stuff out in the world and I think like it actually drove it made me realize at a young age that like you really are capable of anything. And if you can think of it, you can probably do it, right? And as that started to manifest in business, uh, I mean, I'm about to do one tomorrow, this will probably come out after this is live, but we had this idea to, oh, I wonder if our couches would resist my Ford Bronco, like driving up onto it. Like, could it actually hold the weight of like a oversized, overtired vehicle, And actually, we were kind of skeptical. And so I tested it out front and, planted one against the curb and drove up onto it. And sure enough, like, didn't even didn't even creak. It was crazy. And and I'm about to do it. I'm about to make a big video out of it and go park the thing up on top just to prove how, and then run over a competition's couch, watch it sink to the floor, break the
Yes.
springs, and like, but like it's a dumb idea. It's not going to set the world on fire, or set the internet on fire, but it will prove my point, and it will be memorable, and you're not going to get that from Pottery Barn. And
Nope.
so you know, do the things you think about. And they might lead somewhere else, by the way. Forget about the dumb, car on the couch thing. Sometimes these things lead other places, but you only find out, you can only see around that corner after you've driven around that corner, and that's why we have to do the things that we think of.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. I can't wait to see that first and foremost. I had a
Shawn of Lovesac on all social media. You'll see it.
yes, yes, I'm sharing that. I had this idea. The show will be out after I've already done this. So I'm laying there having a massage, and I'm like, okay, how do we take the pause and have it be a viral sensation? I'm not a big believer initially in paying for traffic because your CAC is going to be so big. It's like throwing spaghetti against the wall. So, Shawn, I'm like, here's what I'm going to do. Less than 2.5% of all tech companies have at least one female founder. So, what
Mm.
I'm going to do is for every 100 new subscribers we get, I'm going to take a cake to the face. My dream is to be caked by Steve Aoki. So what I'm doing is wherever I am, when those subscribers hit, I will pull over and I will get a cake and get caked in the face. And I'm like, it might be the stupidest idea or it might be a viral sensation.
I
I
love
have
it.
no idea. And that's my point
Yeah.
is of the 400 plus entrepreneurs that I've interviewed for this show, execution, even when it's tough, even when it might seem stupid, is one of the biggest pieces. And
Yeah.
and for you, the company at one point is on the verge of debt and the 90% failure rate for startups, that's not just for tech startups, it's for all startups. And what was it for you that kept you in the game and didn't walk away and become a statistic?
Well, first of all, I love your cake idea and cake to the face idea. I love your cake to the face idea. I think that it's a perfect example of you have to make your own luck. You can't get lucky with something like that unless you do it. So you could talk about it. You could ask your friends, do you think it's dumb? Some would say it's dumb. So, but you just have to do these things. And by the way, you have to not just do them once, you have to stick to them.
Mhm.
And you may not get lucky with it, but it may lead you to some other path as well. So we make our own luck. As far as these toughest times, how did we not become a statistic, uh, failing even in the face of a Chapter 11 reorg? We had to start over. It's had so much debt. We had raised venture capital. Their big idea was, hey, you 20 somethings did a good job getting this far, but the best path will be to bankrupt the company, shut down most of your stores that you signed dumb leases for because you were dumb kids, and try to get through that tunnel and reemerge with a clean balance sheet. And we'll try and buy you back. And that was not the path that I wanted to take, but I was kind of put on that path. And yeah, I remember in that darkest of time, because those, living, it's one thing to go out of business and deal with that embarrassment. But when you've just been made a little bit of a celebrity, had won $1 million with Richard Branson on TV. It was an investment through a reality TV show on Fox Network, nationwide, big deal, local celebrity for sure. And kind of a minute later, you're on the front page going through a Chapter 11. It's humiliating and embarrassing, and people have been hurt, and people lose money through these situations, and you default on some debt, and it's terrible. It's the worst place to. It's the absolute worst outcome for business, short of maybe going to jail. And so I remember I'm at my parents' house. They can't help me much. They're my mom was a ballet teacher growing, self-employed that way. And my father was a real estate agent, and I have people that hate me. I have articles written about me. And meanwhile, the company has to keep running. Not only keep running, it has to do pretty well in order to get through this tunnel. And I'm flying out to locations that we had just opened a month ago, dismantling them at midnight to get out of the lease. And we can only work and I'm burning the candle at both ends. I'm exhausted. I'm humiliated. I'm reviled. And I asked my parents, what should I just get out of this thing? Like, what should I do? And I remember my mom gave me the best advice I ever had. And I don't, she, again, no experience as an entrepreneur, but she was getting a little bit emotional, and she's pretty sturdy. And she finally kind of said, well, as she stood up from the table and kind of walked out of the room, she said, you can quit or you can keep going.
Mm.
And as dumb as that sounds, that's it. And if you keep going more than you quit, and there are times and there are things to quit, but overall, um, if you keep going more than you quit, you'll make it somewhere. And on top of that, I love this advice I had on my old podcast from Dan Pink, the famous author. He was on. We were talking about a similar subject, and he said, how about this? Whenever it's a tie and you're just not quite sure, let the tie go to the runner. You keep going. Like, unless you are really certain that this thing needs to be quit, if you feel any of that, could go either way, you keep going.
The Your mom is a very wise woman.
Of course. Listen to your mother.
Do you, I know for myself as an entrepreneur, I call them WKMs, wall kicking moments. And you've spoken about often about the miracles alongside the mistakes and this concept of we can really miss the miracle. What do you do, Shawn, when you are so in it? Like, whether it's attorneys, it's HR, it's like all the stuff. The biggest company I've ever scaled had 100 employees. I mean, you're way beyond that. But those days as a CEO, there's so much happening. What is your process that allows you to step out, step back, and ensure that you don't miss the miracles and that your head is in the right space? Because I see that every entrepreneur that I've had on, like whether it's Glenn Stearns, billionaire, or Dave Asprey, or anyone, Jesse Itzler, everyone has a process that allows them to quickly snap out of the doingness of it and get back into the beingness. And I'm so curious about what yours is.
Sure. For me, I woke up this morning with some anxiety. Obviously the world is a dumpster fire in many respects.
Yes.
Our
Yeah.
category, you're in tech. At least you're in a place where everyone's looking. You're in AI. I mean, furniture, consumer. Are we in a recession? I mean, in our category, we are, is housing, which we're linked to, thriving? No. Do I have competition coming out of the woodwork that I created by having the success we've had? They all want to essentially copy us and do what we're doing, right? And they don't have our expense structure. They don't have our momentum either. I wake up with this kind of anxiety, and I practice my morning mantra. I do, I really do three things in the morning, and I try to keep it really simple. I pray, which, includes meditation. If you're, I think, doing it right. These pop culture versions of ancient practices are not so clever when you get down to it. They are eternal principles, regardless of what name you put on it. I read scripture. I'm a religious person. And I practice my morning mantra. It's simple. These are things that I say to myself, call them affirmations, whatever you want. And I've just basically, we might have a great moment in this conversation season that I'll add a line to. And I built this thing. It's a Frankenstein together. And one of the lines and you say it to yourself out loud if you can, and if you can't, I read it quietly. But and these lines are ingrained in me because I say them every morning. And one of them is like, I will not operate from a place of fear.
Mm.
So when you're saying that to yourself, shortly after waking up to a little bit of anxiety, that's it. It's not, I'll try not to, I'll choose. It's, I will not operate. So I flip it. And it's like, if I'm feeling any fear, I refuse to feel it. I refuse to wallow in it. I refuse to accept it. I will take a buoyant, positive, and you might say, look, man, that's like you're being ignorant. I'm aware of what's going on. I'm aware of the challenges. Of course, your mind can't not be aware, but I refuse to operate from that place. So, how do I operate not from that place? Well, it has to be from a place of love, from a place of strength, from a place of confidence, obviously. And that mantra, and 50 other lines, like that, keep me on the rails.
Do you have a go-to scripture?
Um, well, I am a practicing Mormon, right? Member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And, pursuant, I'll choose one from the Bible, right? Pursuant to the fact that we both draw from the Book of Mormon and the Bible. Um, let me get I want to make sure I get the reference right.
And
Um,
and for the audience, the global audience, one thing Shawn probably doesn't know, and most of you don't know, I grew up in the Mormon church.
did you really?
I really did.
I didn't know that.
That's yes, yes, yes. So we were always going here in this show. So this is going to be the fun reveal. So I get to hear Shawn's go-to scripture, and then I'll share which one when I woke up in anxiety that I got on my knees and opened the Bible this morning.
So I'll give you a favorite scripture. So uh, Second Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, right? But of power and of love and of a sound mind. And
Mm,
so when you feel fear, you know where it comes from. At least you know where it doesn't come from.
mhm,
And uh, these are and I some of these things, manifestation and prayer, meditation, whatever label you want to put on these things, they're absolutely real. They're probably more real. I mean, look at the way the world is evolving, right? What's even you know truth anymore? What are facts anymore? Like even facts have a hard time existing anymore. Things that no, you gotta, I saw the video. I saw it with my own eye. How can you even? And so the things that used to be concrete are more fluid than ever. And what's wild to me is these spiritual concepts, these eternal concepts are more reliable
mhm.
than the facts that we are presented. And it's amazing to me as I've grown older, how it's actually, in my opinion, become more that way, not less that way. You would think that science and technology and AI would erode any semblance of spirituality and truth, but actually, these eternal truths that are immutable and bigger than the daily facts that surround us that we can't even rely on anymore are it's where it's at. And that's been a huge testimony for me. And that's the reason that I refuse to give up my faith. And it's been very useful to me.
Yeah. Yeah. The I love that you shared your morning routine. I have a very similar one, which involves prayer, meditation. I heard Joel Osteen say once, prayer is when we're talking to God, meditation is when we're listening.
Hmm.
And my go-to, I have two go-tos. One is Psalm 23, right? That is and I've had many moments where I chose forgiveness. I chose to let it go. And literally there was a feast prepared for me in the in the presence of my enemies, the detractors. And my other one is Mark 11:22 to 26. Whatever you ask for and pray and believe and have faith, you will have. If you say this mountain be removed and cast into the sea, the mountain will be removed and cast in the sea. But 26 is first you have to forgive. And forgiveness is right in as an entrepreneur
Mm.
because I see a lot of people who hold on to stuff and it's taking up so much oxygen in their lives. And I'm like, you are not going to get to the next level if you're just so unrelenting in that lack of forgiveness.
Yeah.
The The question I have for you is thinking about, you mentioned, and this is raw and real entrepreneurship. We talk about the economy, we talk about the landscape. I love that you shared about anxiety. Entrepreneurial anxiety is real,
Yeah, sure.
real. So, prayer for you, scripture, faith. What do you do outside of business, the podcast creating that fuels your energy so that you can come in and play a big game every single day?
Yeah, I make a lot of time now for the things that I've learned to love. And those things have changed over the years. This last number of years, it's been dirt biking. I got into
Awesome.
riding motorcycles on dirt very late in my 40s. Probably shouldn't, this is the type of thing you really should have learned as a kid, which is why, of course, all my kids ride. And even my daughters, the littlest, 11-year-old, they all ride dirt bikes because it's one of the few things that I've found that is wildly physical. It's probably if you do your research and you ride hard, you're not just cruising around on a dirt road. If you're riding very difficult trails, it's wildly physical. It may be the most physical sport that exists. Every muscle in your body is utilized to the max. Your heart rate will often be up toward 180 on a sustained basis, more so than even mountain biking, which is hard to believe because there's a lot of research behind this. But more importantly, these are things. Surfing is another one for me. You have to be present. If you're not present, you're going to die, or you're
Mhm.
going to have radically bad outcomes. And I've never had what I would call a radically bad outcome. And I've become, pretty advanced. We ride the Baja 1000 every year with my buddies. We race it. And it's not about action sports or whatever. That's just what captures me. My point being though, and I wake up before dawn and I'm not even an early riser naturally. I'm more of like a night owl, get my work done. I'm doing emails till midnight on my laptop kind of thing. But like, I'm excited to wake up to do that. You try and get me to wake up for the gym. I mean, that's just pain. I'll do it maybe, if I need to. I've had different stages in my life, but like dirt biking, surfing gets me out of bed. So like, okay, if I be true to your feelings, like I hate the gym. So I'll find other ways to do it, that actually make me want to do it and have these other benefits. And look, that's me. But the point being, you have to make the time. And I call it another Shawnism from the book, play along the way. If you don't play along the way, this thing will eat your life. I would have woken up now at 48, having, you know, waited to live. I'm still not liquid. You've exited how many companies, Susan? And all my wealth is in Lovesac, and I'm doing fine. And I'm a public company CEO. I'm not whining, I'm paid well, but like I would have never had a life if I didn't live my life along the way. And that's hard to do. And
Yeah.
it was always hard. And I was, there are times at Lovesac where I couldn't sleep for 3 days and I worked through this or that. But somehow all along the way, in the seams and cracks, I have made it a priority to play and I don't regret it. And I think, in fact, it's been a superpower of mine because one, I've stayed sane. I've, I think in general, I'm a loving person overall. I try to be, and have had reasonable success because these things have kept me sane and kept me grounded and kept me physically fit. And so you can say I don't have the time for it. And again, there are moments I don't have the time, but I find those seams and cracks and I take it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you talked about the, beingness with your kids because so I've never been dirt biking. I used to be a professional triathlete and my
That's
biggest
cool.
equity stake has not been exited yet, but I can tell you, Shawn, when it does, there will be a party. And
Right on.
and in thinking about what you're talking about, but just before we went in the show, we were talking about Utah and St. George, and there's a marathon there. That I was saying to Shawn is like one of the best qualifiers for Boston. And for me, when lately I've gotten in this bad habit where I'll be like running and doing calls.
Mm.
So, which is like, why
That's
am I
amazing.
doing this? Like,
It's not easy.
but this is like, I'm time optimizing, I tell myself,
Sure.
and you're inspiring me to get back in to do the play and to take that time and the beingness as opposed to the doingness, because that idea that I had for the caking, I was getting a massage and I was like, no, I am taking Thursday and I am going to go for a massage. And that's when I have this idea
Yes.
while I'm laying there and getting every
Oh,
entrepreneur I've had on the show that's ever had an exit or IPO'd or whatever they've done, they have something that they step away and that's where they get the ideas. And I'm sure when you're out there dirt biking, even though like I know
yeah.
you're not doing calls while you're dirt biking.
No, but even product design, I'm inspired by a grill that I put together the other day, and there was just this little detail in this dumb grill that actually is now, yeah, and it's not this exact thing, but it inspired, a change to a product that we're making here at Lovesac. My point being, I could have paid someone to put the grill together, like living your life, you know, getting outside of your own routine. It's like CrossFit, you know what I mean? And doing things with your hands and doing physical things. And if all you're doing is your craft 24/7, you have a very myopic and limited point of view. And you may not think that. You may think you're just deep in your craft, but I'm inspired by theater, movies, books. So like even when I'm watching a show, decompressing with my wife late at night, she wants to watch an episode of this or that or binge something. Those can be inspirational moments if you let them be, if you're open to inspiration, on the creative side, on the marketing side, and all these things. And I kind of look for that. It's not just vegging out. And that's the problem, is like we can scold ourselves and we can become workaholics and eschew these things in the name of productivity and read another book. And I read a ton of books and that too. But I just feel like for me, a wildly diverse set of activities that naturally draw me in, as long as you're not just truly vegging out, if you're willing to accept those, even a massage, man. Sometimes I wish I had two a week because I have so much inspiration in those moments, um, take them that way, you know, and don't feel guilt over doing the things you love, especially if you're actually trying to draw inspiration from them.
In my research on you, and this is a question, did you go on a mission? Was your
Of
mission in
course, yeah. I
Taiwan?
got to serve a mission in Taiwan. I learned
Yes.
Mandarin Chinese. It was is amazing part of my
Yes.
life.
That's what I thought. That's where you serve your mission. And for people who don't know, when someone goes on their mission, you were what, how old were you when you
19,
were
paid
19?
our own way. Didn't even
Yep.
get to choose where we go.
The resilience. So I do have a friend. This is a funny story. You asked why I'd gone to St. George. So one of my friends lives slightly north of you, and his mission was Maui. And I laugh. I'm like,
Mm,
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
rough.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That was rough. But what did your mission teach you that you've brought into entrepreneurship? Because Shawn, I acknowledge you and commend you. I mean, going to Taiwan of all places is not Maui when you're
Mm-mm.
19 years old. And for people who don't know, when you go on your mission, I think everyone, regardless of religion, should experience that kind of beingness where
Yeah.
you're not watching television, you're away from your family, you're out there serving. And what did that teach you about building Lovesac?
100 things. Um, and even at this point in my life, I have now four children, right? 17, 15, 13, 11. And as my wife and I talk about it, and let's take the religion out of it for a second, even though I'm very committed and religious, but just as an experience, as a life experience, I really think if you pressed me, I would rather see my kids serve a mission than go to college. Now, of
Mm.
course, I hope they do both. And it's their choice. Like we won't push them. Like they've got to choose, make these choices, right? We'll guide them and encourage them. But and it's because I experienced growth at 19 years old on a mission that I could have never gotten in my freshman, sophomore years of college. And I did go on and complete university, and that was great too. But like to have to wake up every morning in a strange place there's no adult supervision, so to speak. You're kind of on your own. You got to cook your own eggs. You got to drag yourself out of bed at 6:30. You got to read, you got to pray, you develop these habits, and you do it for 2 years and you do it every day. And then you're out the door by 9, you're learning a foreign language, which is its own level, of opportunity. And from 9 to 9, like you're out there 12 hours. You're not an exchange student doing a few hours of school, then I don't know, doing messing around for the rest of the day on your computer. You are out there in the streets for 12 hours a day, in the sun, in the rain, in the hurricane. Hopefully you can get an appointment so you can, you know, get a roof over your head and go talk to someone about God for an hour or two. Doing service for other people the whole time for 2 years with one day off a week. And even that's not a full day, right? We call it our preparation day. And at night, we go back out again that same night. And so the amount of discipline and rigor that you develop doing that, the amount and it's lonely. You're away from it. Back then, we couldn't even call home, but twice a year, Mother's Day, Christmas. Now they let them FaceTime once a week and stuff like that. So it's a little less, technology has made it a little easier. Sales skills. You're knocking on doors, you're selling really the toughest thing. It may be free, but people don't want to hear it. And so learning rejection times 1,000, at a formative age and muscling through it and having some success and bringing some people to Christ and again, just doing service all along the way. We're always available for service. If you see a couple of Mormon missionaries in your neighborhood and you got to get this fence painted and they'll help you if you ask them.
Mhm.
How could you possibly match that? How can you possibly match that? And I don't mean to look at it so secularly because it is a spiritual choice and it's a deep commitment. Um, but I am so grateful for that opportunity and it's affected me in every way and probably had a piece, people ask all the time, how did you have the grit? Like the question you asked earlier, I believe that for sure some of it came from that experience for me anyway. And I think that's a muscle you develop your whole life, but that certainly didn't hurt.
Yeah. And the piece for everyone listening to is with Shawn's heart. And the reason, the discussion around execution is when I was growing up in the church, like Saturdays were sports days, right? Like
Yeah.
we just do. And Mondays we just do. And it's this the big piece is it's so easy now not to do. It's easy to scroll TikTok or scroll
Mm,
Instagram and live vicariously through someone else's life as
yeah.
opposed to the out there and the beingness of our own lives. And
Yeah.
one of the things I've done with our company, even though we're early stage and I'm bootstrapping and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay, we're writing another check for salaries and, doing all this stuff. We go and serve. We go and feed
Cool.
the homeless on, at least once a month as a team. And I don't care where we are in a sprint, Shawn, for our tech or whatever. We were in a sprint. We were under due diligence. I decided to pull back from the VC because I felt like we were trying to put a square peg in a round hole, and that wasn't the vision for the company. We have a huge vision to create an environment of love, healing, possibility, and freedom for 10 million women on the planet. And it wasn't going to happen. And so we're in the sprint where I'm bootstrapping, we're doing all of it. And I'm like, guess what, guys? We're going to feed the homeless today.
Yeah.
And that was something for me, even, as someone that, God is number one in my life. It's like, yes, I'm going to pull everything to the side and we're going to go serve because that's how we reground ourselves as a company and a community. And for my virtual employees, those service days, they get to go and choose whatever project they're going to do and then come back and talk about what they did. And I think that, anyone listening, I really, really hope that you're hearing from Shawn this piece around like this this isn't for Shawn and I about religion. It's about who we be in the world and how we show up. So my final question for you, I mean, there's so much. I mean, I look at my kids, four kids as well, is 16, 20, 23, and 28. Would I, I've always been like, yes, you got to go to university and you get to do those things. As we head into, we started the show talking about economic uncertainty. We talked about, we don't know, neither, you and I have no idea. We don't know when we're doing this show, we don't know what Powell's going to choose to do with rates. We do not know recession, no recession. We can use our custom GPTs and do predictors and all kinds of things. Regardless of the road ahead, what will you choose to do to execute on your big vision for this company, and share what that real big vision is, not just what we
Sure.
read in the news.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I wrap up my book, Let Me Save You 25 Years, with the 25th Shawnism as we tell the Lovesac story and all the in all of its detail with this idea, maintain top ambition with infinite patience.
Mm.
And it took me a long time as like a cocky, headstrong, capable, young, out of the gate, ripping entrepreneur to develop patience. And it sounds so contradictory to people that have ambition and do it now. I said earlier on this podcast, do it now, but it's simultaneously, right? If you can maintain your highest ambition. So for Lovesac, our mission, not our purpose, I'll get to that. What we're trying to do as a business is to build the most loved brand in America, not
Mhm.
couch brand, not furniture brand, because we all have Apple and it's probably the biggest brand, maybe. But do we love Apple? Has Apple done us good? You give me or you, Susan, a few hundred billion in cash. I think we could cure cancer, man. I think we could.
So much.
And instead, we get better memojis and a battery that you still can't change out because, but we know why. And so they may be huge and amazing, but and if I can achieve the most loved brand in America, it's probably pretty big too. It's probably pretty successful, probably pretty valuable. So that's my North Star as a business. And to maintain that even through now the fourth year of, let's call it a furniture recession. In fact, it is worse for my category, this business, than 2008, 9, and 10 was, which was a housing-led recession by definition. Like by the numbers, not Lovesac. Lovesac's been beating the category. We're okay. We're kind of holding flat, growing a little bit. Most of my competitors are back to their 2000, I'm sorry, their 2020 sales level. If that had happened to us, we'd be less than half of what we are today. Okay. So we're doing all right. But this is what I've been living 4 years. Yet my ambition has not changed. It will not change. And if I got to go 5 years, if I got to go 6 years, I will muscle down and get through that. And I would love to be hiring more and growing more and putting more product out there faster. But I got to watch my expenses. I'm a public company. I love the public markets. It keeps it honest. You can't just lose money forever. You
Yeah.
can't just hide, your stupid cousin in the uh, you know, leadership structure because like there's no sacred cows. I'm not a sacred cow,
Mhm.
right? I have to earn my keep as do we all. And so I love the transparency of being a public, but to come back to your question, our stated purpose at Lovesac, the thing that actually energizes us beyond trying to do something real big and have this big brand someday is to inspire humankind to buy better stuff so they can buy less stuff, which
Mm.
is pretty antithetical to that example that I just haphazardly gave you about Apple, because they want you to buy one every other year at least. And
Yeah.
they will do everything in their power to make that happen, including the stuff that you think is kind of true, but you're not sure, but you know. And if I can build the brand that I'm describing around that idea, like I'm sitting on a couch piece that is 18 years old. It's older than my oldest child. It's been with me through every move. It can be married up to the brand new technology from Lovesac. It can have stealth tech. It can have the recliner because we keep making things that are reverse compatible. And it's on its probably 10th set of covers. These ones are weird because I want to do something weird. And that's what you can do. And it looks brand new and smells brand new. And you would never know that unless I told you. That is what's called a designed for life product. You can only find products like that from Lovesac. I barely know you, right? You have a couch in your life. If I challenge you to just, your back pillows are getting saggy, your big fat dog's squishing one down, just get a new back pillow, refresher. Could you?
No.
What model do you have? When did you get it? Do they still carry it? What about that color? At Lovesac, we never even drop our fabric so that you can come back 6 years later and be like, look, I just need one cover of one arm because my cat scratched. No problem. We got you. That is a different brand than exists out there in the world today. That is what I'm passionate about. That's why after 27 years now, I'm like, well, geez, that didn't hurt that bad. I could go another 27. And that may be what it takes to achieve the most loved brand in America. And if it does, I will have spent my life doing something worthwhile. So if you can figure out your mission and your purpose, which I think are different, and you can wake up every morning and not forget it and stay aligned to it, even through the fourth, maybe fifth year of tough times, 6, 7, 8, whatever it takes, that is maintaining top ambition with infinite patience it takes. And yeah, you can say, well, what about so-and-so? Man, with their second year, they raised $1 billion. Of course, there's headlines like that, man. Someone just got struck by lightning yesterday. I'm sure of it. I have no idea. Okay. The headlines are going to show you the most ridiculous cases. And they are ridiculous cases. For every one of those, there's 10,000 others like you or me, or at least me, slogging along, still doing great things. And I believe, but do you have the patience sometimes,
Mm,
to manage through it and not lose that ambition?
yeah.
So that's how I wrap up the book, and that's what I guess I would leave you with. And I'm very grateful somehow to have to be here, to be doing it now.
Yeah. Well, Shawn, your vision, your mission is inspiring.
Thank you.
And I love that I get to have a front row seat and get to support in every single way. I've thought very deeply when you were just talking about reverse compatibility, and what comes to mind is NVIDIA. When Jensen has reverse compatibility with his product, that's why
Mhm.
NVIDIA outperforms AMD all day, every day. That's
Yeah.
why Jensen's philosophy, he doesn't lay people off. I have many friends who work there, friends that directly report to him, but he made the decision that that's what he was going to do. And so it has changed the game. And many people have tried to emulate what they're doing at NVIDIA, and like everyone can make semiconductors, but what they can't seem to replicate is the heart of
Yeah.
that company. And so,
Which, by the way, if I understand correctly, didn't come overnight. I mean, talk about patience.
mhm.
He muscled through for decades to get where they are today.
Yes, absolutely. And I've had the privilege of being at NVIDIA's head office, of seeing Jensen in the sphere with Antonio Neri when I was speaking at HP Discover, and who he is and how he shows up in the world, even in an AI world, a tech world, and his vision of what he's creating with the company and the people and that alignment, that it just shows that it is possible to say we are going to do things like reverse compatibility. We are going to focus on our customers. We are going to focus on the user experience, and we're going to be very myopic about it, right? And I
Love
love
that.
that. And so thank you for being on Raw and Real Entrepreneurship, Shawn. And let's go.
All
Let's
right.
let's do this.
Let's go.
I'm enrolled. Let's create the most loved brand in America.
Let's
Let's go.
go. Love Zach. Let's do it. Thank you.
Well, for everyone listening, wherever you are in the world, as I always say, God bless, go rock your day. And if the show has brought you anything in terms of wisdom, in terms of ideas, please share the show, tag us both, and God bless. I will see you in the next episode.